Welcome to Moonscapes. It is March 20th, 2013, Wednesday night. It's been quite a while. We've had a stretch of real cloudy weather. I've had probably 10 nights in a row where I've been unable to see anything. And I wanted to work the moon earlier in its cycle this month, and was not able to because of those clouds. If you've watched some of my earlier videos, you know I've been working from a shed up at my son's house, out in his backyard, and I have to wait until the moon gets over farther to the east and out of a tree line there. So I was trying to get some early sessions in before the moon went past quarter. And didn't quite make it because of the cloudy weather. Also, I am not in that shed tonight. I'm in a much more difficult situation trying to do the moon a little bit earlier. I am mobile. I am actually sitting in my car. The telescope, I'm actually in the back section of a parking lot of the retirement community I live in, and the telescope is set out behind the car. And I've run all the wires into the computers, into the car, and I'm running off of external battery packs, and even the battery from the car to run the computer. I have a separate pack for the telescope drive itself. You can see a pretty nice image of the moon. I've got a 21 millimeter eyepiece in there with plenty of zoom, as you can see here. I can zoom in and out pretty nicely. Right now you can see sunrise on Mare Nubium, and if I zoom in really pretty far, let's see if I go way in, and let's try to center this up a little bit. Yeah, there is the straight wall. The image is a little bit smaller than I thought I could get tonight. I'm actually using a different telescope also. I've been using a Skywatcher Maksudov Cassegrain, an f12 60-inch focal length telescope wrapped up in a 14-inch tube, which gives me a nice long focal length. But those telescopes, they have a central obstruction, and I'm trying to settle an issue with color that I see on these videos, and I see on a lot of other people's video. And I wanted a straight-through, unobstructed light path, with which a refractor gives you, and which I have here tonight. And as you can see, we have a nice, clean image. I've got the color turned up. Let me see. I've got to go back to the settings for that and take a look at it. The color is set at probably right around 50%, 40 to 50%, and it's just beginning to show some color. And I don't like to push it any more than that because it really gets false. And let's see, we've got a nice image, as you can see there. And if I zoom it in, we're zoomed all the way. Okay, almost dead center. I'm turning the car off right now. I got a little bit too hot in here. I got to let it cool down a little bit. Right dead center, you can see that small little crater out on the floor of the Mare there. And there's that line. It looks almost like a graphite pencil line drawn on the surface of the moon. That is the straight wall. It's probably around 73 miles long, but its altitude is only, I've read anywhere from 900 to 1,200 feet high. It's not that high. It's a fault where part of the moon has been thrust up. Actually, we're probably about a day late. If we were here on this site last night looking at this, that straight wall would really stand out because the sun angle would have been much lower, and the shadow would have stood out much better. And all the work I've done setting up here, so I've got to take time out here for a little sip of some iced tea here. It's a lot more work setting this up than it used to be. All the equipment I have, before I retired, I had my own home. I had a nice observatory in the backyard, and all I had to do was walk out there and throw a few switches and open the shutters, and we were off and going. But I've since stored the the main 10-inch telescope I had. Actually, a friend I'm letting use, and he's got use of it. And I've got these smaller instruments which I can move around. But of course, now I've got to set everything up each night, and it's not quite as convenient. Looking at the color of this image again, I'm noticing there's a little blue haze in those craters. That is not color on the moon. That, if I drop the color down, see, we can get rid of a little bit of that. See that right there? That color's gone. What that is this refractor is an achromat, a 2-element achromat. It's not a 3-element apo with which are much more expensive telescopes. They do get rid of the false color. Where the achromats, they're good visual telescopes, but for imaging they're going to show a little bit of the blue light. The wavelengths and light, if you're not familiar with it, focal lengths are different. Blue light focuses at a shorter distance than red light. And the problem with the refracting telescopes over the years, very early on, was they couldn't get those colors to focus close enough together, and everything was really fuzzy and false colored. And they come up with the achromat, which is a 2-element lens. If you have 2 different types of glass, they use a crown and then a flint type glass for the second element, and that helped eliminate some of the problem. And now over the years they've come out with 3- and 4-element telescopes, which almost completely eliminate the color completely and give you beautiful, beautiful images. But you better be ready to put down the amount of a small house for some of these telescopes, because they're really expensive. We can move around here a little bit. We've got a real nice terminator tonight. Let's see, I'm zoomed in way in. Let's back out this a little bit. I'm working with, as I said, a 4.7-inch refractor. It's an f8.3 1,000 millimeter focal length. So the focal length is about 500 millimeters shorter than that Skywatcher Maksutov Cassegrain that I use. So we're not getting in quite as close as I would if I were using that other telescope, even though I am using a Barlow. I'm using a 21 millimeter eyepiece, and with a 2X Barlow, a 2-power Barlow. I found online a good deal on a new company. I actually never even heard of them, and they had for sale a 2-inch Barlow for usually would sell for around $125. It was on sale for $50, and it's made of ED glass, which is again those attempts to improve the color images through these glass lenses and telescopes. And so it was a very good deal. It works very well, but it'll work even better and get me closer in when I go back to my Skywatcher. Okay, going down that Terminator. Okay, we got again. You got the straight wall is up near the top. Now we're coming down, and I'm going to put right in the middle. See those 3 real nice craters. The flat-floored crater is Ptolemaeus. That's the big round flat one, and then the one which is almost dead center, which is off to the lower right-hand side of that crater, is Alphonse. And if I can zoom in a little closer on that one, let's see, you get a little bit closer. We're not going to get a lot more zoom because I already had zoomed quite a bit. Notice Alphonse, there's a central peak in it, but also notice there's 3 dark patches in there. One over near 1 o'clock in the crater, one down near 6 o'clock, and one over near 8 o'clock, up against the walls of the crater. They're just tiny little dark patches. They're interesting to follow as the moon goes through its cycle and it gets closer to full moon. Back in the 60s, there were a number of times when there were events seen that were supposed to be color flares or smoke or mist coming from this crater. It really was a mystery, and they had amateurs. An amateur group actually formed to study and follow these. And actually, what it really turned out to be was those markings on the floor, and the brightness of the floor changes as the sun angle changes, and as the moon gets closer to full phase. The floor gets brighter and shows variations in color and tone, and that's what set off a lot of those incidents where they thought they had seen color or smoke or mist coming from these craters. The crater below that, it's connected to Alphonse, and it is almost dead center now, and it's slightly smaller than both Ptolemaios and Alphonse. It's got a nice central peak in it, well-formed central peak. That's Arcazella. That's a beautiful crater. And a while back I talked in one of my very first videos about how those central peaks are formed. They're really just a natural byproduct of impacts. There's nothing unusual about them. They're not moon bases, as some people have expressed. Just under certain and right circumstances on impacts, there's a rebound effect at the center of these craters when the asteroid or meteor hits, and that rebound effect causes these central peaks to form. So let's move on a little bit now. We'll go down. I mean, let's go. We'll work our way up the wrong way. We'll work our way down south. Let me see. I've got another computer here with a map right in front of me, which is helping me a little bit with some of the things that are. Yeah. That's. I just want to make sure I'm right here. That's Clavius over there in shadow. You can see the back rim of it over on the shadow side of the moon, and you can see the mountains and craters inside Clavius becoming sunlit and just starting to come into view. As I said, I'm running a second computer here, an older computer, and I've loaded a program called Virtual Moon Atlas. And it's really neat. You can flip the image any way, and you can flip it to match the view that your telescope shows. For every reflection you have in your telescope path, it'll invert the moon one more time a different way. So a lot of times if you buy a map of the moon, it won't match a certain telescope. In other words, if you use a Newtonian reflector, you'll get one view. If you use a refractor with a right angle diagonal, which makes it a lot easier to observe with, you'll get a different view. One side of the moon will be flipped, east and west will be flipped, or north or south. And what's nice about this program is I can bring the moon up as I did, and then bring my program up and just flip the moon to match the view on the screen. And it's a lot easier. You can go around and find the names of some of these craters. Actually, there was, let's back out just a little bit. I haven't done this before, but I've got my settings, I've got them on auto. I don't normally do that. Let's just for a second, let's take the auto off of here for a second. I just want to see if we change exposure. We can change exposure. Yeah, see, we can bring a little bit more of that detail in the southern highlands. It's a very, very bright area. This is the most mountainous and crater-packed region of the moon, and it causes that real bright effect, and it'll overpower the camera, in fact. Okay, let's move on a little bit. Going the wrong way. Let me get down a little bit farther to the south. And I'm looking for, and I think I've got it dead center right about now. Let me just make sure. And I'm going to have to zoom in a little bit. Let's see how much zoom I left myself. Yeah, I do have quite a bit. Yeah, okay, I'm going to zoom in. See this feature that's coming up right in the center of the screen? It looks like a ruined crater and then another crater on top of it. The ruined crater on the bottom is a flat-floored crater. That's Murchison. The crater dead center, which is partially cut off at the middle by what looks like a small mountain range that runs right through those two craters, is Pallas. And Pallas has a little bit of a central peak in it. This was the area we talked about last month that was Gruithuisen's lunar city, lost city from the I believe it was 1823, I think it was. when he was observing, and he thought he had seen this lunar city. I was hoping to get in closer tonight, but since I changed telescopes, and actually if I'd gone with a 3x Barlow, we probably could have gotten in a little closer to this and gotten a better look at it. But that's as close as we're going to get tonight. And what he saw there were rectangular structures. And if you look around that feature, there's a couple of long structures which are rectangular shaped. Now, I'm sure he was using a higher power than I've got available to me right now. And under a very, very low sun angle, I'm sure some of these things really look strange. And this was the area that he claimed that there was a city on the moon. And there was a big, big hullabaloo over this whole thing. There was just mass hysteria. I think we talked a little bit about that during our last video. And it actually set back American astronomy for some time, because the Europeans thought the American astronomers just weren't serious enough to be fooled and think that these were cities on the moon, and they really didn't want anything to do with American astronomy for a while. But it straightened itself out. There's another area that I want to get to later on, but we need the moon to be about a day or two from full phase. That's the Marius Hills. That's another area where they claimed that lunar cities were observed, and it's interesting to go and take a look at those areas and try to get in there with a high power and look and see just what they were seeing that would cause them to think that they were cities. Again, this area here, and unfortunately, I've got to zoom in as far as I can go. I can't get in any closer. The crater, again, it's a double crater with the flat floor on the bottom and the little peak in the center of the crater on top. If you notice, there's two rectangular structures. There's one to the right of the and above, or about 1 o'clock from Pallas, the top crater. And then over about 11 o'clock from Pallas, there's a small crater, a very small crater, and then out away from that at 11 o'clock, there's a longer, dark, rectangular object, and that can look a little strange. Let me see if I can bring my moon map up a little bit and see if I can figure out what that little crater is. I need to change the settings on this on my Atlas computer here. Let me just give me a second to verify where we are. Okay, there we go. Okay, and that crater up at 11 o'clock from Pallas is, and it might just be, no, it's Ukert, U-K-E-R-T, small crater. Let me see the dimensions of the crater here. Yeah, it's about 14 miles across. So that small crater off of Pallas, that's about 14 miles in diameter. We can go back and I can give you the dimensions of let's see, Murchison crater, which is the flat-floored crater, is let's see, that's 35 miles in diameter, and Pallas, the one that's got the little mountain in the center, is, let's see, that's Pallas N. We don't want Pallas N, we want Pallas. Why is this keep not giving me? Hang on, I've got to get this just right here. There we go, Pallas. Okay, yeah, Pallas is 30 miles in diameter. But anyway, so we'll move along. I want to get down and another thing. Notice how nice and smooth I have nice, easy control of the mount tonight. I am using my Atlas mount, the mount that I talked about earlier. That Orion Skyview Pro mount, which I used from the shed and is still up there waiting to go through another set of observations, is still set up and ready to go. That's the one that doesn't work as well and is herky-jerky, and it gives me a lot of trouble. Notice the movement of this Atlas mount. It's just smooth. I can go that way and then go right up, immediately go back. See how quickly I can go, keep it going back and forth. No backlash. Any way I want to go. Either way. and there's no backlash. I got tremendous control. This is an Atlas EQG mount from Orion. Very modestly priced for the quality of the mount. I've used it for long exposure CCD imaging of faint galaxies, and it's really a good mount for the money. On the screen in front of us, right dead center almost, is the crater Archimedes, and that mountain range is the Apennine Mountains. The crater right at 3 o'clock near the edge of the frame is Eratosthenes, and again Pallas is, not Pallas, but Archimedes, that big flat-floored crater. And then to the left of Archimedes, the bigger crater up going towards 11 o'clock, that crater is Aristillus. And then the crater that is about 8 o'clock position from Archimedes is Autolycus. I'm not even going to be able to pronounce this. I'm terrible at pronunciation of some of these craters. I will spell it for you. It's Autolycus. And the dimension of that crater is 24 miles in diameter. And by the way, let's get Archimedes. Archimedes is a big crater. That's 50 miles in diameter. So that's how close we are zoomed in on this area. And we'll go down a little farther. There is Plato, that big crater with a dark floor. That is the crater Plato. Beautiful crater. And that crater is, I believe it's even bigger. Yeah, it's 61 miles in diameter. And notice, and it's unfortunate, I almost wish I hadn't used this telescope tonight, so I could get in zoomed closer. I'm zoomed all the way in. Notice the shadow of the walls of the crater over near the about the 6:30 position, the 6 o'clock position, on up to about 8, 9 o'clock position. Notice the shadow. That's the sun catching that wall and then throwing the shadow out on the floor of Plato. That's really pretty neat. Notice down near 6 o'clock in that mountain range. Let me just let's see if it's going to come up if I. Yeah, that's still part of the Alps range. It kind of wraps around and goes way down there. That cut, you can see it doesn't show up very well tonight because the sun, the terminator's really moved way over to the upper part of the frame. But you can see the Alpine Valley cutting through there. And let me see, if we go down far, that's the North Pole of the region of the moon. I'm going to go out and get out onto the Mare floor a little bit more. Oh yeah, wait a minute, 1 second. I want to, I think I misidentified these two craters the last time I did a video. The crater almost dead center is, no, that's not correct. I've got the wrong. Just give me a second to get my bearings here. That's Plato. Yeah, that's Aristillus. And I think we already did these two. Oh, you died. Okay, okay. The crater dead center is Aristillus, and then the one down at about 5 o'clock is Eudoxus. That crater is 41 miles in diameter. And then let's move along. I want to get out and check the Mare floor out here where the sun's higher. And I want to check color. Color seems to be holding pretty well. I haven't got it. I haven't got the saturation up that much. Let's turn the. I forgot whether I've got the auto on for color. No, I did take it off. I'm going to turn the color intensity up a little bit and see what we get here. Okay, I'm up to about 60% now, and It's taken on a little bit of a rusty red and some darker blue around the edge. But I do notice one thing, the color's not nearly as blown away as it is with the other telescope. I think the central obstruction with my Max Sudov Cassegrain, I think that causes some coloration, false coloration, which you have to deal with those telescopes, which we don't have with this telescope. It's actually an advantage of having that straight through with no central obstruction. Kind of bringing this. I want to bring this map up here and check something out. Okay, over those Mare floor. Notice the darker colored one, which is kind of a bluish color. Down near the 5 o'clock area, that's Mare Tranquility, Mare Tranquillitatis, or Tranquility Base, as we'll remember from Apollo 11. And then the upper Mare, which is the large one in the center, which has got that brownish color, is Mare Serenitatis. And we've got that nice dividing line between the two of them. And I've got a crater which I want to identify. And I'll bring it up in the center of the field. Right in the dividing line between those two Mare. I'm just about centered it now. It's over in the darker part of the Mare Tranquility, the darker blue Mare. See, there's a fairly large crater out in the middle of the flat Mare floor. That's Pallas. It's 26 miles in diameter, and it's almost looks out of place as there's very little on those floors. A lot of small craters, but nothing that big. We're going to move around a little bit more and see. Over here we have Mare Nubium. Over near 8 o'clock, that large round basin look, and then that bright splash is that is Proclus. And I'm gonna put that on auto and brought it out a little bit. Proclus is that splash. Let's see, where are we with the zoom? Let me check my zoom again. Now I'm zoomed all the way in, so I can't. It's not going to help us. If I back it out a little bit, I want to see. But you can see Mare Nubium is that big round flat-floored Mare at 8 o'clock, and Proclus is just that beautiful impact site. And you can see it looks like it hit at a very, very low angle, splashed out 90 degrees on most sides, even a little more. Nothing going back towards the middle, and then there's some of the debris splashed out onto the floor of Mare Nubium. I'm watching the time here, and you just don't realize how quick the time goes as you start, moving around the moon here and talking about different features, and the time just really gets away from you. Okay, and this area here is kind of blowing out, so let's go back to the settings. I have white balance. I'll take that off. Color intensity, contrast. Let's take the auto off and try dropping the exposure a little bit. Yeah, that kind of shows it a little better. Just some nice white impact areas. And well, we'll finish up. We'll go back over towards the terminator, and we'll go down along. Let's see. Okay, there's our Ptolemaeus and Alphonse and Arcosella up near 11 o'clock now. And then that really splash of craters in the southern highlands. It's just completely crater packed. I'm going to see if I can identify one more feature here, and then we're going to call it quits. Right above, let me find them first. Okay, there's Ptolemaeus and Alphonse on my atlas. and I want to see what that, as soon as I find out what it is myself, I'll tell you what I'm talking about. Dustlanders, is that a crater? Is that, huh, okay. Let me see if, I'm sorry, I keep on hitting the mic. Like I say, I'm sitting in my car, and I'm really kind of crunched in here all together. Let's zoom in. I want to show you one more feature before we call it quits for the night. I'm going to center this up a little bit. Notice that flat area. It looks almost like a huge crater or a small mare. Let me try to get it just about dead center. Okay, it's just about dead center now. That is Dustlanders. And it's actually listed as a crater. It almost looks like a small mare. And the diameter of that is given as 142 miles. And now notice that small crater in Dustlanders at about the 1 o'clock position. That is, let's see, that is, oh, isn't that interesting? That's hell. You are in hell. That is the crater Hell in the crater Dustlanders, and it's a 20-mile wide crater. So I think I better think about wrapping this up. I'm going a little longer than I wanted to tonight. As I said, time just kind of flies by. I kind of like the views I'm getting with this telescope. I'm not the color. When I turn the color up, I'll give it one more shot at color before we call it quits, and we'll just look at. I'm going to put first of all color in auto. Everything is in auto. Let's go. That's auto. That's actually nice. It kind of brought that up pretty nice. And if I take the color and play with it, if I raise it, see now that gets false. That gets that red, rosy red look into it. And we bring it back down. That's about where the auto put us, and that's nice. There's a little coloration in there. And if I drop it down farther, we start to lose some of it. And there, it's pretty much gone. I don't mind a little color. There is some color to it. The moon at times, or depending on the sun angle and all, but I just don't like the blowing out false color that you see sometimes on YouTube. This is about as much color as is natural and is true. And I'm quite happy actually with the seeing. I'm very surprised I got the seeing I have. Okay, my next session will probably be, I hope to get one out within the next few days, and be back up at my son's using the shed out in the back of his house where we can use the where the moon's out away from that tree line he has a problem with. And this will probably be the last time I'll be able to use that shed as the moon follows the ecliptic as we get into the spring months, and then the summer, the moon, when it's visible in the evenings, follows the ecliptic, and it gets down very low. It gets down to plus 10, then 0 degrees, then minus 10 and minus 20 degrees, and it gets way down into a tree line, and I no longer will have access to that shed. It actually works for us for the 4 coldest months of the winter, which is good. And the rest of the time I'll have to do the traveling salesman setup that I'm running right now. So with that, I'll end tonight's session, and hope you'll join me again in I hope a couple nights, depending on the weather. We've had some real trouble with the weather lately, but I hope to have another session in another few days. I hope you join me then. Until then, good health, clear skies, and we'll see you later, guys.